Luke Goedeke might be the most improved player in the NFL, and he's a major reason the Bucs are off to a 3-1 start and sit at first place in the NFC South. Tampa Bay drafted him in the second round out of Central Michigan in 2022, and his rookie season was rough. He was just no match for the speed and power of NFL pass rushers. He was getting moved back into the pocket. He didn't have the anchor to stop bull rushes. Defenders had a really easy time beating his hands, and when he would lose early in the rep, he'd stop moving his feet and he'd give pass rushers an open path to the quarterback. So heading into the year, that was one of Tampa Bay's biggest questions. With Goedeke moving from left guard to right tackle, if he played like he did as a rookie, this passing game was not going to have enough time to operate. But this year, he looks like a completely different player. He's so much more patient with his hands. He's done a much better job of sliding his feet to stay in front of pass rushers instead of bending at his waist and leaning into blocks. His anchor and overall play strength has taken a significant jump, and he's been a lot better as a run blocker as well. Comparing PFF grades over the last 2 seasons, Luke Goedeke is the #1 most improved offensive lineman by overall blocking grade, and he's the most improved pass blocker and the 3rd most improved run blocker. You got to take PFF grades with a grain of salt, but that big of a difference isn't just noise, and the film backs up the numbers in this case. So it hasn't been flawless, but he's gone from a player that you're worried about ever leaving on an island to a quality starter with some minor things he needs to improve. The pass rushing move Luke Goedeke's faced most often this year is the cross chop, where you strike across the body to defeat the outside hand and then pull through with the offhand. The key to defeating a cross chop is staying patient with your hands, because the pass rusher is trying to defeat that outside arm. So if you lead with an outside hand strike, you're giving him easy access to knock that down and get to the quarterback, and you don't have any way of recovering. It's also important to stay square and balanced and not lead with your head into contact, because if you lunge into a cross chop, that creates an opening for the rusher to take advantage of your weight displacement and pull through. And Luke Goedeke has put on a clinic this year in defeating the cross chop. He's faced it 21 times through the first 4 weeks, and 19 of those have been decisive wins. You can see he's patient with his hands. He's letting the pass rusher declare his move first, and then once he raises that inside arm to get into the cross chop, Goedeke pulls back his outside hand to cause him to miss, and then in one fluid motion, he converts that into a punch to seal off the outside. When a pass rusher extends their arm out to get into a cross chop, or really any move, they're exposing their body and giving you free access to land a punch. So Goedeke's done a great job this year of anticipating the move, pulling back to protect his outside hand, and then immediately landing a punch with the opening that the pass rusher gives him. And he's executed every aspect of this technique at a high level. I keep mentioning patience, but it's so important to be comfortable waiting on the defender to make his move first and then taking advantage of him overextending. He's been really quick and accurate with his punch, getting his outside hand on the outside armpit and using the other hand to protect against a spin or a counter inside. And he's also done a great job matching his feet with his hands. Last year he would punch, but his feet would stay locked in the same position, and it doesn't matter how good your hand usage is if you aren't able to keep your body in between the quarterback and the rusher. There have been a few times where he's a split second too early with his punch and he extends his arm right on the downslope of the cross chop. You can see right here he does a good job being patient with his punch, but he needs to hold this outside hand for a half second longer. He tries to land this punch right as the cross chop's coming down, so Cam Jordan's able to defeat the outside hand and then swim over the top. This is another example where he's a little bit too early with his punch and Cam Jordan's able to cross chop the outside hand, but he does a great job sliding his feet, so even though he gets beat early in the rep, he's able to recover and protect the outside. But overall, he's faced this move what seems like every other snap, and he's pretty much completely shut it down. He's also been really solid against power rushes. Like I said, his anchor last year was a major problem. He'd let pass rushers get into his frame and walk him back into the pocket with no resistance, and he is kind of light for an offensive lineman, so I think moving him from guard to tackle has helped him in this area. He isn't the best size matchup against players like Cam Hayward and Grady Jarrett, so that's definitely made it easier for him, but he's also done a much better job with his technique of getting his hands inside, keeping his feet square, and dropping his anchor. The one thing I still worry about with Luke Goedeke is arm length. 32.25-inch arms is the shortest of any starting offensive tackle, and I've seen that show up a couple times. If a pass rusher like Danielle Hunter is able to land his punch first and get into a long arm, it's really difficult for Goedeke to replace his punch and put up much resistance. Since he's using this patient play style where he isn't necessarily focused on establishing first contact, one way to counter that is going to be a long arm where you give a quick punch inside and drive through him. So I can't overstate how much Luke Goedeke's improved as a pass blocker this year. We're now at the point where it's 1 or 2 losses each game that he gets overpowered or needs to be quicker to recognize a stunt, which is right on track for his development in my opinion. And the handful of losses he's had, most of them are happening later in the play, and he's at least doing a decent job recovering and putting up some resistance. Last year he had a lot of quick losses where the ball snapped, Tom Brady gets to the top of his drop, and he's already got a pass rusher in his face. Those are the plays that just kill you as an offense offense, and we aren't seeing that very much with Goedeke. And then he's also improved a lot as a run blocker. He's a much better fit for Dave Canale's offense, where they're using a lot more zone concepts. Last year they ran gap scheme runs at the 3rd highest rate in the league. This year they ranked 3rd in zone usage and 30th in gap. And it's like I said, he's not the most powerful blocker one-on-one at the point of attack, so he isn't going to create a ton of displacement on down blocks and just move defensive tackles off their spot. But getting him on the move on reach blocks, he's a really good athlete, great hand placement and body control, and he's had a lot more impact run blocks this year. The one play I do want to break down, it's 4th and 1, and the Bucs are running crack toss. So Cade Otton's got a crack block on the defensive end, and Goodeke's pulling from the front side to clear a path for Rachaad White. TJ Edwards tries to undercut this block and make a straight line to the ball carrier, but Goodeke's able to adjust his angle in open space, stop his momentum, and catch Edwards with his backside hand, which slows him down enough that White can get the edge and convert the first down. So Goedeke is definitely the most improved offensive lineman so far, and probably the most improved player overall, at least that I've watched. And the second most improved player might honestly be Zion McCollum. I want to wait until we get a couple more games of tape before I do a video on him, but he's another player that seems to have taken a major step forward in year 2. One of only 8 cornerbacks ever to have a perfect 10 out of 10 RAS, and he's been great through the first few weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments any NFL players or teams that you'd like me to cover.